following program on Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised. For a real view, real opinion, and for an honest conversation, it's time to Get Real with Mahieash Johnney. Tonight, coming to you from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Get Real as we start the final quarter of 2025 and also the first day of the month. Good to have you here on the program as well. And tonight our focus is about one of the pillars this government promised in order to bring into the development sector of this country. When they in the manifesto, one of the areas that the president promised was digitization. And obviously we actually had a discussion several weeks prior about this as well. But we wanted to get an update, exactly where is it going, how is it headed, because the world is moving at a really fast, unthinkable rate. And how is Sri Lanka, are we playing catch up or are we actually ahead of the game? So in order to discuss, none other than the Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, is back here with us. Good evening, Minister. Good to have you once again and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Mahieash.
And also joining me tonight is the Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer of the Ministry, Sachindra Samaratne. Welcome to the program as well. Good to see you. Let me start off with you, Minister. Before we I know there is a big conference coming with regard to the digitization process itself. Before we get into that particular aspect, I want to get a little bit of an update from you with regard to this rollout of the digitization process of the government. GovPay was something that we had been hearing for the past few weeks, especially with on the spot fining also being included within the Western Province. The rollout was occurred, I think, about a couple of weeks back. And where is it right now in terms of GovPay, in terms of the digital infrastructure and your plan as a whole?
Right, so from the beginning, like we were talking about 5 main pillars.
Yeah.
So digital infrastructure, the government digitalization is one of the main pillars in that. So in those digital infrastructure pillar, like the digital ID is the core, would be the core, and in that now there's a tender process that is going on to select a MOSIP-based implementation of a MOSIP-based digital ID for Sri Lanka, and another development of interfaces are happening in Sri Lanka. So we are hopeful by the mid of next year that project to come live. So with the digital ID coming in place, a lot of government services, including the private services, will be much convenient for the change to a digital space, and then the service access and also the authentication, KYC and everything would be able to integrate with the digital ID platform and obtain. Then in the other pillar is about the commerce part, the digital payments part, where the GovPay is coming. So GovPay, we started rolling it out in March, April this year. So from that, by today, I would like to highlight that we have surpassed 118 institutions connected to GovPay to receive payments for 1,500 odd services in those institutions. And in terms of the value of transactions, we have gone beyond 101 million transaction value in terms of the collection of payments through the digital payments. And with the introduction of this on-the-spot traffic fine payment, currently it's only active in the Western province, but we are planning to roll out for a few other provinces in this month.
What's the success rate of that?
Extremely good. Now, last week, like there was a postal strike and so on. So GovPay was the only medium that was available for people to pay on the spot and then take back their driving license and continue their journey. So we are getting a very good response from the public as well as even from the police, traffic police, like good response about the service, how convenient it made for both the police person as well as the driver to seamlessly exchange the payments and then carry on their work. It reduces the writing of and reconciliation of traffic fine collections and everything. And also for the government, it gets the payments like done rapidly, so that the payment collection and also the right accounting will be, it is happening much smoothly. So the response is extremely good. So GovPay is one of the main projects in the digital payment space, and soon in this month, like there'll be a fintech summit that is happening, and in that we are going to come up with the total overall roadmap for digital payments, including the QR-based payments. How we are, the government side and also the public sector, private sector, banks, and all the different stakeholders get together and rolling out and relaunching QR payments, and also how we get onboarding the merchants and the public getting into the use for QR payments is something that is happening. So the other three pillars, industry pillar, which startups is key component of that. So the program that you mentioned, Disrupt Asia, is happening in this month. So we are this year, like that Disrupt Asia exhibition and the
we'll get to that later on, Minister, if you move on to the next one.
Yeah. So thereafter, the workforce and capacity development that is happening. In that, we have started doing many capacity development in the government servants on the AI and other digitalization topics. Because now, when we are rolling out many digital services, the adaptation of those services by the government servants are very much needed. So for that, right training and the capacity development should happen in that space, which we have already started, and close to 2,500 like government servants are already being trained on the latest technologies and on the digital space. And from like next month, we are going to roll out in the kind of a national island-wide programs.
So if I summarize it, by the mid of 2026, we're really going to see some tangible evidence of this particular rollouts and these initiatives.
Absolutely.
All right, let me turn to Sachindra. Sachindra, with regard to what the Minister mentioned, a conference called Disrupt Asia. Why Disrupt Asia? Why not disrupt Sri Lanka first and then go to Asia? What exactly is this conference is about, and what is it hoping to achieve?
First of all, thank you for the time given for us to share about Disrupt Asia with your audience. We appreciate that. Disrupt Asia was envisioned in 2016 and as a program yes, in 2016, where Disrupt Asia's vision was Sri Lanka to become that hub of disruption for entire Asia. That vision was that broad and that ambitious. What we saw during 2016 to 2019 was that the startup ecosystem of Sri Lanka saw the next level of growth each year that we had Disrupt Asia. So it was like a milestone that we had in our startup journey as a country to see new startups coming in, the type of technology that these startups brought in, the ecosystem players which grew, the startups which disrupted different industries. So Disrupt Asia is about responsible disruption, not only looking at Sri Lanka as a market, but Asia and the global as well. So why the term Disrupt Asia is because our vision is, once again, where Disrupt Asia is now in 2025, after 6 years of a break for multiple reasons, is now coming back again, so that Sri Lanka can become the hub of innovation for entire Asia, where Southeast Asia, the GCC and South Asia can culminate in this space, in this lovely island called Sri Lanka, where we generate innovation, where we discuss areas where disruption takes place to become a hub of innovation for entire Asia and the world. And that's how the disruptive.
But do we have the infrastructure for that? Because we've been, like you said, if it is 2016, I think from the Mahinda Rajapaksa first administration onwards, we've been talking about digitization of this country.
Sure.
And it has been going on to various versions of it, and every version has failed. And hopefully this version that has, I think last time when we were here, Minister, we talked about it extensively. It is very promising, but the implementation is, and making sure that it is being adopted properly, and we talked about a lot of issues in terms of adaptability of the people and how they should be friendly towards these technological changes that is going to happen within the government sector. Sure. First, and then of course I think the private sector has already caught up. But do we have the infrastructure for that?
So good question. What do we mean by Sri Lanka becoming a hub? So Sri Lanka becoming a hub wouldn't necessarily mean that we disrupt the way that Sri Lanka works. It's a hub where export takes place, where innovation is global, where you think global from the start. And that's what we have seen in our digital industry. So one of the other KPIs of the current government is a $5 billion digital industry. So currently we are about $1.7, $1.8 billion, which predominantly comes from offshore services. We have multinationals which have set up their offshore centers, and we, as our talent is known worldwide, renowned worldwide, so we are able to generate a certain income which we get as our billing. The change that we are to take place to go from $1.7 billion to $5 billion is a product ecosystem. Yeah. The valuation economy, as an example, WSO2 earned $129 million when they exited at 600 plus. That's a six times multiplier. In Singapore, $1 million when they exited back in 2020, around 2021, 15.5 million was their valuation. That's a 15.5 million multiplier. So this economy which looks at valuation is an entire economy which looks at IT products. That's where we are shifting to change this game of $1.7 billion which we earn right now to $5 billion, which is a 20% year-on-year growth, which currently is about 6% year-on-year growth. So this change that we are pushing to bring in, which is not something we started this year, something that we've been working on since 2010 with incubators, with accelerators, working with global partners on putting that idea into heads of university students to corporates, that you need to build companies, that you need to get into the space of entrepreneurship. That's the space that we are disrupting. It might not be, yes, as a country we might have been slow. That's there in our indicators as well, that the consumption and adoption of technology in Sri Lanka has been slower than the exports. It has always been the case. But right now, with the new strategy that is brought in for the next 5 years, we will bridge that divide, where Sri Lanka itself will open up as a test bed, and hence why we are inviting the region to be part of disrupting Asia by setting up headquarters in Sri Lanka.
Minister, one of the things that I keep hearing from startups is that when they go and pitch their ideas to investors abroad and they accept that this is actually a good idea, and for them to come here and invest, that particular point of inception, let's say if somebody wants to pour in more than $1 million, the cumbersome process of putting that money into a Sri Lankan account and getting it up onto the point where the startup can utilize it, get people on board, get infrastructure on board, get that particular idea up and running, that process is such a cumbersome process because there are so much of checks and balances. And that is such a turnoff for investors within the region, even to think about the moment that they, okay, I have to, instead of following 3 steps, I got to follow 150 steps. So why should I keep doing this? It's much better, hey, why don't you open up I'll support you to open it up in southern India, or go to Singapore or some other place, and that's what has been happening. How are we to address that?
Yeah, I think very good question, Mahieash. When we are talking about the foreign investments, direct investments, like there are 2 categories. One is to start a new business, maybe an expansion of their existing business, or maybe to start something whole new. The other one is about funding into or investments to the existing startups. So to invest on existing startups is a very straightforward, clear-cut process is there. However, there are certain policy and regulation changes that the investors are expecting, especially about the ability to move funds. For example, if somebody is investing, let's say, 20 million in a company here, they would expect the investment or the company that is created here be able to expand to outside Sri Lanka as well. Maybe start a branch office maybe in India, or maybe in let's say Dubai, or somewhere like that. So that sort of facilitation is currently, that's where the investors are finding difficult, because they can only take about 0.2 million, 200K out in one investment. So we have to bring the right regulation for them to easily make business decisions based on their requirements for that invested money, maybe to take out and invest and expand in the region or in the world. That is one. The other one is about now the other policy changes or the consistent policy requirement. That is, in Sri Lanka, we had a period where the policies were changing too rapidly. The investors are quite displeased about them, and also even the investors are not having much confidence on investing in Sri Lanka. And that is one reason is because of the inconsistent policies. The other reason is about having the right stable political culture, including the law and order and everything, the corruption-free country and various things that they are expecting in a country that they are going to invest. The third, and I think the most important one, is about having the right regulatory frameworks in the country on the digital space. For example, Data Protection Act, Online Safety Bill. Such policies are required for investors to come and invest, including the IP protection and so on. So this government, now we are getting the PDP, Personal Data Protection Act, also getting enforced by March, April next year. So currently the capacity building and the right governance structure getting implemented. So with those ground level policies are being in place, and also getting activities like Disrupt Asia. And with Disrupt Asia, we are going to bring a fund-of-fund mechanism to encourage investors to invest in Sri Lanka, something that hasn't happened in the past. Mm-hmm. So currently, if an investor comes and looks at and identify a startup here, it's a risk for them to invest because of all these other reasons. But from the government side, we are going to create a fund of funds to give a kind of matching funding mechanism for any investors coming and investing in startups in digital space. So that sort of initiatives will encourage investors to coming in and showcasing our startups community and the investment opportunities from a big event like Disrupt Asia will pay the way for us to get into that $5 billion export revenue industry in Sri Lanka.
Indeed, we want to take a short commercial break and talk about Disrupt Asia 2025. I think it's going to happen this month from which date to
17th to 20th.
So it's
4 days.
It's a week or
4 days.
4 days.
Yes.
4 days of foreign participants and a lot of local
startups, innovation, corporates.
How many numbers are you hoping to attract to the conference?
From a conference perspective, we are already attracting more than 30 foreign investors, VCs and fund managers overall. And from Sri Lankan perspective, we hope to attract 70 more local angels and local VC funds, investment banks. So to have a complete 100 investors for the startups and scale-ups to meet on the day. We have 30 startups and scale-ups which we've selected through a rigorous process, who's also showcasing on the day of the 18th, which is called the conference, the main conference. And then we have a selection of many panel discussions with multiple experts talking about their story as a startup, like pick me IPO from a startup to IPO story, the story of Sanjeeva in terms of WSO2, and many other startups and scale-ups talking about their journey as well. So that's on the 18th, but I should reverse one step back. On the 17th, we will have Venture Engine. Venture Engine is organized by the Lankan Angel Network. So after maybe 10 years or more, 12 years of running Venture Engine, for the first time, we have now joined this under the Disrupt Asia umbrella. So Disrupt Asia is a multi-stakeholder program, an initiative with one North Star. The government, the private sector have come in to do that. So Venture Engine is happening on the first day, also bringing many investors and a pitching competition of the final 10 taking place. And on the 19th, should I continue?
No, I want to take a short break, sure. And when we come back, we will actually get more details about the conference as well. You're watching Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, and also the Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer, Sachindra Samaratne. Right here on Get Real. This is our first episode for the month. We'll take a short commercial break, and when we return, more about disruption. Welcome back everyone to Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, and also Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer, Sachindra Samaratne, with regard to Disrupt Asia, one of the conferences that is coming on the 17th of this month, in order to get startups up and running per se, and also to make sure that the digitization process of this country gets a boost from this as well. Minister, let me start off with you on this segment. What is the government hoping to achieve by the end of these 4 days?
Right. So what we have seen in the past, like Sachin said, there are few companies who have been successful setting up a startup in Sri Lanka and on their own achieving and reaching out to the investors out there. For example, because of the connections that Dr. Sanjeev Weeraratne had, he was able to get WSO2 presented to the investors in US and then somehow get good investments. And that made that company from maybe a $1 million company to exit at 100 million valuation in last year. So that's been done on their own capacities up to now. But now we as a government who are committing to develop this industry to $5 billion industry, we want to be a vehicle for our startups to reach to the investors that are out there. And this exhibition and then the summit like Disrupt Asia will actually pave the way, because we are bringing down many investors, globally well-renowned investors coming into Sri Lanka, give them the local experience and also to create the confidence in them about Sri Lanka to show them the development that's have been happened, and also the tourism angle as well, and then connect these two entities for to carry on the investment discussion. And also with the fund of fund program, where the government is also committing with money that investments that's been done in Sri Lanka would be secured for them in terms of the policy as well as to encourage them to invest here. What we are trying to achieve is now a lot of innovation that are happening in Sri Lanka. A lot of R&D is happening, the new startups are coming up, but all this time, as Sachindra said, what's been successful here are the service-oriented companies, because many product-oriented companies who are coming up with new ideas are exiting very early stage. So certain companies exit maybe when their valuation is just 100K, and maybe because the investors that are coming to invest on that company are asking them to set up their front office or the headquarters in some other country where we are having the maybe the for that have their confidence, because they are moving out of the country. Therefore, the industry valuation that's getting created here is stagnated at 1.7 kind of point. To jump from there, we have to create that industry valuation going up by creating many product companies as much as possible. Because Sri Lanka, we don't have a high number of engineers coming up like in India or any other country. So with the limited resource pool that we have to create that valued high value industry for Sri Lanka, and to look at the way to retain those companies in Sri Lanka as much as possible until they grow to at least stage 2 round of investment or beyond that. So this Disrupt Asia event, so what we are trying to achieve is connect as much as possible the investors to startups and let the startups get the required investments while in Sri Lanka, and also with the government support from fund of funds for them to grow while in Sri Lanka. And at some point, if they want to exit, they may exit, but that will happen when the company has come to a kind of a much bigger valuation.
Sachindra, with regard to continuity,
sure,
that is, I mean, there are good ideas, there are startups like this, and there are events like this, but then they are given the tools, and then there is no holding the hand and taking them up until to a point where they can actually survive by their own. And because of that, a lot of businesses fall apart within 6-7 months. They're down the drain. But they are good ideas. If somebody actually looked at it, who has a backbone in business and business strategizing, you will see a better outcome from it. What is the approach to addressing stuff like that and issues like that?
Sure. So Disrupt Asia doesn't happen in isolation. It happens within a comprehensive strategy to build our startup ecosystem as a whole. Us as an agency, as ICTA, we have been running the first tech startup incubator in the country. It's called Spiralation. We ran it for 14 years, and we have supported 156 tech startups through that, which 90 of them are in operation. That's a pretty good success rate in terms of the startup ecosystem ratios in other countries, because this is idea stage to MVP and prototype and then real registered businesses. So with that experience, we have seen throughout the entrepreneur journey at which point they need the support and what type of support do they need. So we've come to a point where multiple programs, just the last 2 months, there were 5 programs which were run by many organizations. Yesterday ended the YAL Geek Challenge. It has been running for 14 years, done by the YAL IT Hub in the North, one of the premier events and premier startup support programs that happens in the country, one of the best organized. So that had 150 applications, which 25 product startups pitching yesterday, with 3 being selected as the winners. And they will also exhibit at Disrupt Asia. So this is just one region that I'm talking about. So there is a funnel of startups, product-based startups being created in the country, where Disrupt Asia will be a point where they are catalyzed for connections. These connections could be sales, connections could be really great mentorship, connections could be connectors who take them global, investors. So Disrupt Asia promises that platform for them to connect. And through that, we are also inviting global accelerators and incubators to look at Sri Lanka as a destination to set up, so that these ideas that are born don't stick to local but think global from the start. And the multiple initiatives that many organizations, we call this ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, are running right now, is churning out and nurturing startups. To your point, how do they continue? Will Disrupt Asia just be one moment in time? How do you take it to the outcome? So this is well planned, where these companies which are showcasing at Disrupt Asia, which are more scale-ups, them to seek investment would be another 6 months of discussions, which we will facilitate with these investors who are coming here. It won't be just a 4-day program that what we call a big tamasha. It's a concerted effort that we have taken for the past 6 months to come to this point, by connecting to multiple global networks of investors, multiple countries through our different foreign missions, and connecting to, I think, almost 100 different types of VCs, from which we have converted 30 odd to come. So there are 70 more who's willing to connect with Sri Lankan startups. So this requires consistency from our end, which is something that continues. The policies that Honorable Minister mentioned, which we hope to see certain announcement which can be made during Disrupt Asia, but many actions which needs to be done in terms of implementation, which will carried out till December. So the comprehensive startup ecosystem development plan is supported by multiple parties in Sri Lanka, private sector, investors, the government, community partners, and to achieve that one North Star, to becoming a startup hub in South Asia.
This sounds all good in paper, Minister, and when it comes to practicality and implementation, one of the things that I want to pick from what Sachindra said was destination. Looking Sri Lanka as a destination towards startup, as a startup hub. Now let's think beyond 5 years. Let's think beyond 10 years. Okay, investors are saying, good, Sri Lanka is a good point to start there. Invest. Let's pour our money to Sri Lanka. Infrastructure is going to be a bigger issue for that, which means connectivity to the world, internet connectivity in terms of real infrastructure. There's a so-called port city, which is actually a city of sand, which now you can actually transform it into a city of startups. Why isn't the government thinking? Because is it like, in terms of, if you are thinking right now in that particular direction, we got to map out the next 10 years beyond to make sure that here, look, this is a solid plan. This is not a one-off, like you said, 4 days of good events and good food, and then they go back home and never to talk about it ever again. But instead of doing that, telling, okay, here's the money, this is how it's coming into the country, here is a network plan, here is what we are going to do, this is where you can set it up. All that, has that been mapped out?
Right, so in the infrastructure side, if I start with, Sri Lanka is very well connected to the global backbone. We have very good 6 submarine cables, which we are connected to the whole world, and because of that, Sri Lanka can play a data hub in the region. And also, what is lacking currently is Sri Lanka don't have like a data center kind of capacity in Sri Lanka in the hyperscale level. We do have the local telecom and the other data center operators operating and setting up data centers mainly to serve the local market.
But Minister, if you take a look at like these kinds of bandwidth that businesses are talking about is actually in really large numbers, businesses. For residential, yes, we are really connected well, that is for sure. Fiber-wise, it is only the government agency, SLT, that has that capacity. Right now, we saw Starlink coming into the foray, but then again, prices-wise, it's a little bit high for continuously thinking about a business plan per se. So in that sense, where is the support? Because right now, fiber is good, but for business per se, the data transfers, the data basically making sure that they can actually access servers, not just here in Sri Lanka. If you take from the graphical aspect of things, rendering farms, things, server farms that are out there in the world, to access that. And if it is taking, like, let's say, 6, 7, 8 hours in order to upload something into that and get something back, that's a lag which is not exactly very enticing.
Right. Okay. So when we talk about the data connectivity, there are two things. One is in Sri Lanka, there are multiple international submarine cables going via Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So we have landing stations in I think about 6 landing stations here. That is one thing. So the bandwidth of those connections are extremely high. I mean, if you want to set up a data center here with ultra fast connectivity, bandwidth, and low latency, we can do so. The other part is about the bandwidth that taken out by these operators, internet service providers, for the consumption by the local community. So that there are all these limitations. So in a big pipe that maybe operators like SLT, Dialog, and others have, they then share it with all the customers that they have. There can be limitations, and there can be latency issues, there can be the bandwidth issues and so on. But of course, we are encouraging operators to increase the bandwidth and get the right service delivered to the customer. So TRCSL is always looking at the effective the speed and the bandwidth that they are offering by these ISPs to the customers, and ensuring that if somebody is marketing a package, data package saying unlimited, it should be unlimited. There can't be limitations during the peak or off-peak times and so on. So different that enforcement, TRC is now started, and they are very strict on that, and I am hopeful that they'll be able to get the operators to have the right capacity and the speed in those connections. And at the same time, we are introducing new services like Starlink. So we gave the license, and now the Starlink is operating in Sri Lanka, and that creates the competition, healthy competition, so that the local operators, internet service providers, also will have to look at and have a matching packages and the service offered to the consumers, so that this whole industry will move forward. The other one, because that there are high capacity international submarine cables going via Sri Lanka, we can be a data hub in Sri Lanka to provide data center service, export data center service out of Sri Lanka. For that, we are talking to hyperscale service providers and in specialized data center companies to come and set up data centers here. Because
has there been any?
There are very good, progress in those discussions, and especially on the AI kind of artificial intelligence data center, which requires
a lot of energy.
But in Sri Lanka, we have enough energy capacity. What we are lacking is we are only having a single grid. We don't have grid redundancy, except that we have the required energy production in Sri Lanka. And also there are so many private sector investors who are looking to come and set up energy plant in Sri Lanka. And if you are going for a high capacity data center, especially like to something like AI, those data center investors are coming with their own power plants as well. So they will create a power plant in the premises that they are getting for the normal consumption, and use grid as a kind of a fallback option if that power plant breaks down. So that's the scale we are looking at. For data center, come and set up data center here, 50 megawatts or 100 megawatts, and they will come up with their own power plants for their consumption. So energy won't be an issue in that sense. What we want is those investors looking at Sri Lanka favorably because of the current stability that we are having in the country, and also by like relaxing all this policy regulation, if there are anything that's affecting negatively to those investments to come in, to correct them and get the right policies in place is what we are looking at.
Sachindra, before we go in for a break, very quickly, in terms of the speakers that you are hoping to get for this event, very high profile indeed, what exactly are you hoping that they would divulge to the community down here?
Sure. I'll just take one step back. We have a 2-day conference, and that's where the speakers are engaging. The first day on the 18th, and the second day, which we call the Innovation Festival. Different audiences on 2 different days, where the first audience on the 18th will be more startups and scale-ups. If they're looking for funding, on the 18th they have to buy a ticket and come. That's the place to be with the investor traction that we are creating during that platform. The Innovation Festival talks about multiple different types of technologies, multiple speakers who are brought in to talk about innovation overall, and the festival atmosphere created to bring about the STEAM nurturing, science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics. So the speakers have been selected in a basis of where almost all of them are investors. Because this time, Disrupt Asia, which is a startup conference and innovation festival, our main focus is on rejuvenating investment in Sri Lanka. So the speakers are mostly investors who are speaking from their experience of investing in different types of startups who are coming from different parts of the country. Our keynote speaker, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, on the first day, who is a game changer himself. This is before India had UPI, where he really changed the game as a fintech entrepreneur, where he will talk about his story. So there are many others who have built funds and has deployed funds in spaces like Rajan Anand, earlier Sequoia, now runs an investment firm called Peak 15. We will have people like Carl Hetling, who's from St. Clair's Capital, who has set up funds in multiple different jurisdictions, who are now evaluating Sri Lanka to set up his next fund. We will have speakers from, especially from Doha, Rasmal Ventures, Sumaya, who's coming down, who just tied up for deploying one of the government-oriented funds through the fund of funds in Doha as well, who will talk about their experience in the type of startups that are brought in. So there are close to 70 plus thought leaders who are coming from different parts of the world, who's bringing in from an investor angle and also from a technology angle. Because Disrupt Asia is not only a technology conference, it's the premier conference for entrepreneurs. There are many technology conferences happening in Sri Lanka even in that month. But Disrupt Asia is for entrepreneurs. It's about startups, about scaling up. It's the entire focus, and our niche is entrepreneurship.
Indeed. Let's take a short commercial break. I'm in conversation with the Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, and also the Associate Chief Digital Economic Officer, Sachindra Samaratne. With regard to Disrupt Asia and also the digital infrastructure of this country, along with the digitization process of this government. Let's take a short commercial break. You're watching Gateway. We'll be back. Welcome back everyone to Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, and also the Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer of ICTA, Sachindra Samaratne, with regard to one of the conferences that is happening this month, 17th to the 24th. Disrupt Asia. They're trying to bring in a lot of innovative ideas into the country, and also, like Sachindra said, entrepreneurship is the key thinking process of this entire conference, and also to bring in a lot of regional leaders, world leaders down here in order to make sure that our local younger generation gets inspired in order to make sure that they come up from the thinking process in order to the activating process, and also to be successful, contribute to our economy. Sachindra, this is our last segment. Very quickly, if by any chance this particular conference, we have a lot of success stories within this country.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of big companies that actually has the capacity to bring in and support, but that leakage is not happening. If you see the ones who have done and really well in their game are not exactly helping the younger ones who are coming up maybe in the same line of that particular process. Because most of the time, I don't know, there are few exceptional companies who does this, but most of them think like, why should we create another competitor that will be part of it or anything of that nature. What do you have to say to most of those people, and also in terms of getting the corporate sector involved in this particular process as well?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Disrupt Asia has always wanted to create new thinking among the corporate sector. Some of the few corporates which you mentioned started off their innovation arms through Disrupt Asia during the previous years. It is very well understood that if the corporate sector in a country doesn't open up to work with startups, to work with startups who have really great and disruptive technologies, they also won't be able to be competitive within globally. I mean, if corporates want to be local, that's fine. If they want to be global, then you have to work with these set of innovative companies. And that's what we provide during Disrupt Asia on the 18th, a showcasing of great startups and scale-ups who have great technology as well. So sometimes corporates are a bit hesitant because they think they are small, they think they are a bit fickle, they think they might crash down in the next month. So what we have done from our end is to select the best of those companies with great entrepreneurs, great business propositions, and great balance sheets, so that they are stable. And these 30 companies, given those technologies, are your safe bet, are the corporate safe bet. Without developing technology within, through their entrepreneurship, they can look at merging with these companies, they can look at sourcing from these companies. So that's a very important drive that we want to once again rejuvenate in Sri Lanka, where corporates will start their innovation arms, where they will work with these startups so that they will have skin in the game. We want the top 100 listed companies in Sri Lanka, let's start with the top 10 listed companies in Sri Lanka, doing that first. So that's the challenge that we have for the corporates, and they can start by coming to Disrupt Asia, understanding what this investment space is like, understanding maybe they can quell their doubts of what they have as myths about startups, so that they can really start working on the next generation of Sri Lankan entrepreneurship.
Minister, if I come to you, what's next beyond this?
Yeah, so in this month, September month, we are planning 3 main events. The top event is Disrupt Asia, and there are two more events. One is FinTech Summit, to talk about the FinTech development that's needed for the country, as well as create entrepreneurship in FinTech space. Now, we know like Disrupt Asia drives the entrepreneurship in the digital space as a whole, as a kind of a blanket space, but in that FinTech can play a huge role as well. So even though there are certain companies who are doing digital payments kind of things on FinTech space, FinTech is a much broader domain. like digital insurance, digital banking, eKYC, and so many things can be done in that space. And to talk about that, by getting foreign thought leaders, speakers coming into Sri Lanka and connecting again the entrepreneurs that are here, including the school children and so on, to create a platform to discuss about fintech. What should be the fintech roadmap for Sri Lanka, as well as how what are there in fintech space for the young minds to like adapt and then start building solutions. So fintech is happening, fintech summit. The third one is the National AI Expo. So AI, we are talking about AI, which will disrupt the whole.
That's also happening this year.
All the industries, yes, and all the jobs and even the day-to-day life of everybody in the whole world. So, what AI? What is the AI roadmap for Sri Lanka, and how we can bring in the AI expertise coming into the country, and also the innovations to drive innovations within Sri Lanka. So with this AI Expo, like we are going to talk about the AI fund, maybe AI excellence centers and so on, to drive AI adoption in the entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. So these are the main three exhibitions and the conference that are happening. Parallel to that, we are going to launch the Cyber Security Operations Center, National Cyber Security Operations Center, because cyber security is one area when all this digitalization is happening in the country, the security has to be very well looked at. So for that, we are going to set up a separate operations center to look after all the government critical digital public infrastructure. Thereafter, we are going to roll out many digitalization services, especially on the spot traffic fine kind of services, maybe to roll out island-wide. So we started now expanding from Western Province to going to multiple other provinces, and within this quarter to roll out that service island-wide. One of the main things that we are looking at to roll out this in this month is the Experience Center, where now we are talking about digitalization, digital ID, national data exchange, maybe e-driving license, e-passport, digital subsidy distribution platform, and so on. So people may be wondering like what those platforms are, how their day-to-day lives are going to change by those platforms, and what benefit that they are getting. So to give them that experience side, we are going to roll out digital experience centers. One thing is to set up within Sri Lanka for anybody to come and have an experience there, as well as to set up mobile data centers to go out and take this experience to the village level, and let the people to actually come and have a look at how their future is going to change, or future is going to be more interesting by all these digitalization initiatives.
We are running out of time, so we have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Minister, and also Sachindra, for coming up on the show and sharing your ideas with regard to the digitization process of this country, and also about this big conference that is happening, Disrupt Asia, from the 17th of this month to the 24th. In order to make sure that we get a kickstart to the startups of this country, and also get the entrepreneurship of the digital space up and running as well. Thank you very much, Minister of Digital Economy, Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Eranga Weeraratne, also Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer Sachindra Samaratne. Thank you very much for both of you coming on the show and sharing your ideas. Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again next Monday with another episode of Get Real. See you then. Bye.